Not all photography advice is good. In the early years, we can become convinced that those who have held a camera longer than we have must know what they're talking about. But in this video, let me show you the advice that I was given that could have cost me over £8,000 in wasted money. Stand with a photographer any length of time and pretty soon you'll find they're more than willing to share a few nuggets of advice. And whilst I genuinely believe this is usually well meant, not all of it's actually helpful. In fact, worse, it can be downright destructive. No two photographers are exactly the same. They don't shoot the same subjects, edit in the same way, or go to the same places to take their photographs. Therefore, the gear requirements vary massively from photographer to photographer. So let me help you avoid the costly mistakes and build a gear setup that actually suits your photography. So let's start with how you carry your gear. As with everything in this list, if you start shopping online, you'll find a million different types of camera bags designed for everything from a walk in the park to an Arctic adventure. And the common advice is that you should have a proper camera bag with loads of compartments for all your knickknacks, batteries, memory cards, cables, lenses, cloths, filters, and all of the additional stuff that you might be carrying. But is this actually true when you're just starting out? When I first started, I had a waterproof backpack that I used to use to go to the gym. And with a little bit of modification, I managed to separate my camera body with its lens on and still have room for another spare lens. I had one zip pocket on it where I kept a spare battery and a spare memory card. And that was it. So how much did it cost me? Well, technically nothing, because I already owned it. But if you were to buy one, you could probably find something similar for around £60 to £70. Now compare that against a top of the range Peter McKinnon bag or a Wandered camera bag, and they can cost anywhere between £500 and £600 and £700. So is it essential that you get a proper camera bag to start? Absolutely not. So this tip alone saves us around £500, and that's not a bad start. So why don't we keep a running total somewhere, and I'll put it up in the corner. Now, in the interest of full transparency, if you've watched any of my other videos, I do advise that you don't buy the cheapest tripod that you can find on Amazon Basics for £20 or £30. And I still stand by that advice because they're absolutely useless and they won't grow with you as a photographer. But do you need to spend £500 and more on a tripod? Again, I don't think this is essential. Some tripods cost upwards of £1,000. Yes, it's nice to have a carbon fibre tripod because they're nice and light, but again, is it essential when you're starting out and money is at a premium? Take this tripod for example, the Gitzo GT5563GS Systematic Series 5. It's about £1,400 and it doesn't even include a ball head. So by the time you slap one of those on there, you're at £1,800, and there is absolutely no way I would ever consider buying that. Even now after a decade of photography, it's just overkill. Is it a good tripod? Yes. Will it make me a better photographer? No. I think a reasonable amount of money to spend on a tripod is anywhere between £150 to £200. For example, something like the Benro Tortoise. It comes with a ball head included, and it should last you a good number of years. So the potential saving here is around £1,600. Now this is one I heard a lot when I started out, and that was you have to buy a UV filter to screw onto the front of my lens so that if I dropped it and the tripod fell, the thing that would take the damage would be the UV filter and not my actual lens. Now I understand the thinking behind that, but think about it this way. I shoot mostly on my 24-70 and this lens cost around £2,300, and a UV filter can cost anywhere between £30 and £200. And yes, the one at £200 will be made with better glass, but is it better glass than my 20-40-70? Absolutely not. So why would I be screwing inferior glass onto the front of a lens designed to take sharp and beautiful photographs? Now look, if you're out shooting in extreme environments with sand, sea spray or horrible weather, then fair enough. But when you're starting out, I personally don't think this is an essential purchase. I have camera insurance, so should I trip, fall or drop my camera, I'm covered. Slapping a couple of £100 of a UV filter, to me, seems like a complete waste of time, and it's potentially a limiting factor in producing great photographs. So for me, this is another wasted expense. If you're enjoying this video and getting some value from it, guys, and you'd like to dig a little deeper into some other topics, then I've written 2 ebooks, one on how to compose your images and one on how to make sure those images are nice and crisp and sharp. Each book is laid out with great examples in an easy to understand manner and will definitely help elevate your photography. But if you'd rather just stay in touch, then you can sign up for my newsletter, which also includes a completely free ebook on getting started in photography when you're a little bit older, like me. The link for all of this, as always guys, is in the description, and thank you for your support. Memory cards. Now this is a trap I fell into because again, I was advised to get the fastest possible memory card so that when at the end of the day shooting, I was downloading my files from the memory card onto my computer, it wouldn't take as long. Now I have every single type of SD card you can think of, from a 64GB slow card all the way through to a top of the range 256 V90 UHS 2 card. And yes, it's blisteringly fast, but the only time I really feel the benefit is when I'm transferring massive video files. When it comes to individual photographs, at the end of the day, I just make a cup of coffee and then I download my files. It doesn't take that long. And this is quite a timely thing to consider, because given the memory card shortage in the world just now, prices have doubled and in some cases quadrupled. So again, the higher capacity memory cards are far more expensive than they used to be. Also, memory cards have names like Ultra and Tough, but ultimately, all memory cards can fail. So instead of having one super fast state-of-the-art 256GB card, it's much more sensible to have 2 or 3 smaller cards. And that way you're covered should you experience a failure. So if I were starting out today, I would buy 2 64GB cards and that would cost me around £80 as opposed to a top of the range 256 card, which now costs about £250. And not only does that represent a saving of about £150, it also gives us redundancy should one card fail. If you decide on day one what it is you want to photograph, then you will save yourself a ton of money down the line. This is the exact piece of advice that I was given. Unfortunately for me, I chose landscape photography and I'm still a landscape photographer, so this didn't bite me quite as hard as it might bite you. That said, I've recently been dabbling in street photography and I've found that to be an incredibly interesting and enjoyable genre. And if all I had in my bag was a 15mm prime for landscape photography, then I wouldn't have enjoyed the street photography half as much because I would need to get in everybody's faces. I wouldn't be able to stay discreet and photograph people going about their lives without actually becoming a part of their lives or moving into their house. What I think is much better advice is to have an idea of 1 or 2 genres that you think you might want to do and find a lens that works for both of them. So for me, something like the 20-40-70 or 20-40-105 range makes for a perfect lens for those that are just starting out. At the wide end, you can do landscape photography. In the middle, you've got everyday and street. And at the longer end, you can start to get into portraiture. So the potential saving here is finding out that you've bought the wrong lens, you don't like the genre you're in, and then you switch. And now you have to buy a new lens. And that could cost anywhere between £500 and £5,000. But conservatively speaking, let's call it £1,000. And remember, when you're starting out, it's about experience. It's about trying things and finding out what really speaks to you. Don't pigeonhole yourself right from day one and have a gear setup that is exclusively tailored to one type of photography. I'm a nervous buyer. I don't really like buying second hand. I don't know if that sounds snobby, it's not meant to, but the reason I don't like buying second hand is because I know how well I treat my gear and I have no idea how badly the person I'm buying from treats theirs. And that creates doubt in my mind, which I would rather not have. That said, I've started using companies like MPB and I've found their services to be incredibly valuable. Yes, it may not be as cheap as buying off something like Fleabay, but it does come with a 1-year guarantee and savings of between about 20 and 40%. And the whole process of buying is nice and simple. You can even trade in if you're upgrading, and that whole process is simple too. And the great thing about using sites like MPB is that you get to see the actual lens you'll be buying on their website, and it'll be described as fair, good, excellent, or like new condition. I tend to buy the ones that like new, and I can still save a good few £100. So buying secondhand is not as dangerous as I thought it was, especially when you buy from a company that has a good reputation. So again, if you look at the cost of a 20-40-70 lens, it could be about £1,000 new, but if you buy it secondhand from MPB, it could be between £600 and £800, representing a saving of up to £400. But the most important thing is you get that peace of mind of the 1-year warranty. And just for clarity, this video is no way sponsored by MPB, they did not get in touch. But if you're listening MPB, please feel free to reach out. Okay, so this one is the biggie, and it has the potential to run into thousands of pounds on its own. And I'm not going to get into the ultimate debate of which is better, zoom lenses or prime lenses. I'm just going to speak about what might suit you better in your first couple of years as a photographer. And for me, hands down, that is a zoom lens or even a couple of zoom lenses. And the reason for that is simple. If we take the 20-40-70 again, for example, as we've already said, you can shoot landscapes at 24mm, street photography at 35 and 50, all the way through to portraiture work at 70mm. Now, are zoom lenses as sharp as primes? Arguably not, and a nice sharp prime does take some beautiful photographs. But that's where the trap lies. If you want to try some wildlife, some street photography and portraiture, you're going to need a minimum of 3 prime lenses, maybe a 24, a 50 and probably an 85. So instead of buying one lens, you're going to have to buy 3. And even then, you'll lose the focal ranges in between each one of them. For example, you won't be able to shoot at 35mm. You might not be able to zoom in or out from 25 through to 35. So therefore you are fixed, and the only way that you can zoom is by using your feet. You either walk closer or further away from your subject. And in some cases, that's just not possible because of the terrain, and we don't want any of you falling off cliffs. So comparatively speaking, the price of a 20-40-70 f2.8 is around £2,400. But if we compare that against an equivalent aperture prime lens, well, the 24mm costs about £1,800-1,900, the 50mm costs about £2,600, and the 85 costs again about £2,100, roughly about £6,500 worth of glass. So you can see, having a zoom lens that covers that entire range really gives you the potential for huge savings. And for me, the sacrifice of a potentially slightly softer image, well, it's absolutely worth it. Yes, you can buy one prime and start that way and keep adding to them. I know a lot of photographers who did that, but for me that makes photography in the early days very limited. Where do you start? Do you buy the 15mm wide angle lens and all you can do is landscape photography at a grand scale until you can afford your next prime? And at these prices, buying a lens every couple of months might not be possible given the exorbitant prices of glass. So starting with a zoom opens up far more possibilities and protects your bank balance because, as you can see in this section alone, we've potentially saved over £4,000. So now that we've dispelled all of that bad advice, how much money have we potentially saved? Well, if we add it all together, that saving comes out to just over £8,000. Now okay, some of these examples were admittedly extreme, but by being sensible, not getting carried away with your new hobby and really thinking about what a piece of gear will actually do for you as a photographer, it's very easy to avoid making some incredibly expensive mistakes. And honestly, with the money that you've saved, I think it's far better to buy petrol for your car, a plane ticket or a train ticket, and start visiting amazing landscapes, cities and wildernesses. Because there's nothing worse than having the best gear in the world and not being able to go anywhere to take photographs. And if you found this video useful and you're still hungry for more advice to help you get started, then I'd watch these videos here. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, I will see you in the next one.